Landlordless ladies and bridge-home boys, gather round the barrel fire, hand a hopeless hobo a hot hammy, and the concept of property itself is the real problem, man.
You know what else is a concept?
What's that?
Talk Tull to me.
Oh my god.
Talk Tull to me only exists because everybody believes in it.
Man.
Anytime you comment about concepts, you have to end it with man.
That's it, yeah.
It's law.
Welcome back to the podcast, where you always have a home. I am Omen Thomas Sade.
And I am Nick McGill.
Together, we are the Feckless Moans.
And this, my mortgage applicants, is Talk Tull to me.
An unsanctioned gathering in the empty lot of prog rock, in which Not in a House Nick and Open Air Omen will share sips from a dirty hooch bottle containing the collected tracks of ruthless rock band Jethro Tull. We will hang with the houseless Scott Hammond, fight for the food security of Florian O'Fall, and use David Goodyear's gadget to steal power from the backside of a Walmart supercenter. And if we can fight off the rats of Rock Island, disable the anti-homelessness architectural spikes of saucity, and write a truly witty phrase on our Coronach cardboard, we may one day be able to coax into a warm transitional house the transient taxi grabber, the Beltane Bindlestiff, the service-resistant Scotsman, the wandering weathercock, a man so undomesticated we've only ever seen him in the grainy surveillance camera footage that monitors our dumpster. Ian, a fixed domicile is merely a gilded coffin for the soul that yearns to be free. Anderson.
Yes. Ian is a cryptid, I would say.
Ian, that is the best single word description of Ian Anderson that I think has ever been made.
Big cryptid vibes, yeah.
He's a flute cryptid.
Did you say anti-homelessness spikes?
Anti-homelessness spikes. Yeah, have you not seen those?
I've seen them for pigeons. I've seen them for homeless pigeons, but I haven't seen them for humans.
There's a whole brand of evil called anti-homelessness architecture. And that's where, like, in a bench that is long enough for a person to lay down on, there's an armrest in the center.
Wow.
Or if you have a flat space in one of those kind of ugly brutalist buildings in the city, you put literal spikes on it so people have a harder time lying down on it.
That's just...
It's pretty cynical.
Yeah, I would say selfish.
There's some new laws actually in some parts of Florida that make it so a city government could be sued for failing to enforce the anti-camping legislation that now exists.
That makes all the sense in the world.
Totally makes sense to me, yeah.
Yeah. The fact that that's a law, not that anyone would want to do that.
Yeah. But we're not here to solve homelessness. We are here to solve podcastlessness.
Tulllessness.
And to that end, Nick, what is it that we are going to be talking about in this here episode?
We are going to talk track number 5 off of tab 2. This is the second half of Gerald Goes Homeless. It is known as Adrift and Dumbfounded.
It is known as that.
It's been called that on certain occasions.
Please, call me Adrift and Dumbfounded. Gerald Goes Homeless is my father's name.
That, I think it was worth it. I think that was worth it. Before we dive into that, however, I do have a little correspondence about, I think it was from the first episode when we talked about ghost trains.
Oh, yes. That was From a Pebble Throne.
From a Pebble Throne.
The very first track.
The lyrics being, the very first line even. Take me on the ghost train, 20p and there you are. Scary in the tunnel night, white knuckle fingers on the safety bar.
Take me on the ghost train, 20p and there you are. Scary in the tunnel night, white-knuckled fingers on the safety bar.
We posited that a ghost train was kind of an interesting philosophical concept.
Yeah.
that bridges subjects like ghost ships, but also a certain aimlessness in life.
Yes. To round out, phantoms pop from the cupboards, mocking manic laughter shrieks, dark promises of blood and gore.
Phantoms pop from cupboard doors, mocking manic laughter shrieks, dark promises of blood and gore.
We had several Tull skulls write in to inform us. We had Folky Phil.
Love him.
We had Vicar John, our Anglo correspondent.
Much love.
And Jeffy P. from all the way out in the tundra-like effect of Chicago right now.
You know I love the P.
You do love the P. That's right. That's right. Actually, this is referred to as something called a dark ride.
Whoa.
Yep. And according to the Wikipedia, a dark ride or ghost train is an indoor amusement on which passengers aboard guided vehicles travel through specially lit scenes that typically contain animation, sound, music, and special effects. Appearing as early as the 19th century, such exhibits include tunnels of love, scary themes, and interactive stories. Dark rides are intended to tell stories with thematic elements that immerse riders, which unfold throughout the course of the attraction.
Oh, so that's amazing. I had no idea those were called ghost trains. It totally makes sense with the lyrics. You put in 20p for your ticket at the amusement park. A dark ride is as opposed to an outdoor roller coaster like the Big Dipper.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Disney is a master of dark rides, and they are my favorite. I much prefer to have a dark ride than an outside ride.
You're in a little cart that just follows a track, right? And you follow the narrative.
Yes.
As you physically pass it by.
Yeah, so, Space Mountain is an example of that, where it's a roller coaster, but it's indoors so that they can control what you see. Mr. Toad's Wild Ride is a great example of that, where...
So it's not just like a really calm ride. It could still be a roller coaster.
Oh, yes. It could be as herky-jerky as you can build it, which is pretty herky-jerky.
According to Disney, yeah.
But Mr. Toad's Wild Ride is that good example of that because, you're with Mr. Toad as he goes on a rampage in his motor car. And it's based on The Wind in the Willows.
It's a wonder they haven't replaced that yet. It's a bit dated at this point, isn't it?
I think they have replaced one of them. But, you go toward what looks like a wall, and at the last moment, the wall opens up. And then, your cart turns and they shine a light on some sort of a spinny thing. So you feel like you're. So that's amazing. But I had no idea those were called ghost trains.
Yeah, and from Folky Phil specifically, some info here. I don't really know why, but I had never listened to Thick as a Brick 2. Something about the idea of a sequel put me off the whole album.
Sure.
But when I saw you were going to talk Tab 2 to me, I finally took the plunge. Thank you, I was unexpectedly delighted by it. It's not a typical Tull album, if such a thing exists, but it is definitely set in the Tullniverse. And while it is most obviously akin to Thick as a Brick, it also reminds me of the storytelling style of Too Old to Rock and Roll. Absolutely, yes. I could see Brick 1 and 2 being adapted into a stage musical. We've been talking about that pretty much this whole time, yeah.
Just waiting for the producers to get back to us.
Yeah. Much stranger concepts have been used for such things after all.
It's true.
However, most notably, some of Thick as a Brick 2, especially A Change of Horses, which we'll come upon, ranks among the very best of Ian Anderson's work, I reckon. Why did I wait so long to listen? Regarding the lyrics to the opening From a Pebble Thrown, I was surprised you didn't know what a ghost train is, and I didn't realize that it's a particularly British thing. And I think it's the specific terminology. I mean,
I agree.
We've seen them in cartoons and sitcoms and everything in the past, I just didn't know that was like the go-to term for it.
I've heard the term dark ride 1,000 times.
Oh, you have? Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The Ghost Train is a fairground ride, the first example of which was built in 1930 at the Pleasure Beach in Blackpool.
Wow! Blackpool had several claims to fame with rides.
And I'm sure teenage Ian will have seen it there, along with the original Big Dipper roller coaster, as referenced in the song of the same name from Too Old.
Wow.
The Ghost Train is perhaps the original quote-unquote dark ride.
Yeah.
a mini roller coaster which carries passengers through dimly lit tunnels to witness spooky scenes such as skeletons lurching out of closets, monsters rising from misty graveyards, and white sheet ghosts floating overhead, complete with lurid luminescent paint lit by black lights, sudden flashing colors, blasts of compressed air, and sudden loud noises. These things are directly referenced in the song lyrics.
Yes, yeah, they are. Even the safety bar, you literally lower a bar onto your lap so you can't escape.
That's right, yeah. Just like watching a horror movie, we ride the ghost train to give ourselves a thrill within a controlled and safe environment. Today, the ghost train still thrills riders in Blackpool, but costs a bit more than 20p.
I reckon.
Entry to the park now is £33 for a day ticket.
Wow.
Great show as always. Cheerio, Folky Phil.
Just want to say £33 for a day ticket is still not bad for an amusement park.
I suppose, yeah.
It's a lot cheaper than Disney.
Yes.
But I mean, the whole dark ride or ghost train is now a whole art form, and it really is pretty spectacular what can be done with it. I've been lucky enough to ride the rides at Disney quite often, and it's amazing. It's amazing what they can do with scale and lights and just orienting you to look at a certain thing or another. It's really cool.
Misdirection and pulling focus and things like that.
Mr. Direction.
Mr. Direction. If you get lost,
ask Mr. Direction.
Ask Mr. Direction.
Don't ask Mr. Erection.
Something will come up in that conversation.
Please cut that out. I can't.
Speaking of directions and needing them, let's listen to our track for this week. Let's listen to Adrift and Dumbfounded.
Adrift and Dumbfounded. Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Direction. Which way to my ears?
I'd say it's over here.
No, that's my Mr. Erection. I don't think. Is he paying you? Is that what's going on here?
Nick McGill.
Oh, Midsade.
That was Adrift and Dumbfounded, the conclusion, the second part, the B-side, if you will, of the mini exploration, Gerald Goes Homeless.
That it is. Just sonically does not sound like a terribly good ending for Gerald here.
You know, there's a lot to talk about musically with this song.
Yeah.
But yes, I am left with a feeling of uncomfortability.
Yeah, instability at least.
Yes,
Yeah.
and even some moral qualmishness.
Moral quandaries, instabilities, and Mr. Erection. Why is he here again?
He always, I don't know, I never invite him.
He just shows up.
He knows where a party is. He can smell it a mile away.
Gross. 4.5 minutes. A quick 4.5 minutes. It's at this point a standard length for a Tull song. Anything south of 4 feels short.
And yet, in that 4 minutes, we cover a lot of ground.
Yes, yeah. We have some transitions here of kind of this really contemplative acoustic that transitions into kind of everybody picking up, but still staying kind of calm and sedate. Then we get into some metal. We get some really bitchin' Hammond organ.
Yes.
Some electric guitar. But then
Yes.
that pulls back down again into quiet.
Yes.
We get a really heavy breakdown, and then we repeat.
Yeah, it's great. We end with a little bluesy riff.
Yeah.
From Florian that, his work is growing on me. Why don't we start out by talking about Florian, even though he's not the first sound in here?
Sure.
I was doing a little reading about him, just his biography. There's some connection between him and Ian that started when Florian was pretty young.
19.
Like 19.
Yep.
And he was a jazz guitar student.
Yeah, he was acoustic. He was strictly acoustic at that point.
I believe, much like Ian has influenced the trajectory of other musicians in the past, Jeffrey Hammond comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a bass, you start on Monday.
All right, Ian.
Oh, whatever you say. Beats scrubbing toilets.
But I just want to paint.
I just want to paint. No, you'll play the bass. You play your bass like your daddy. I don't know.
Don't know.
But he encouraged Florian to transition into, or to learn, a rock electric guitar style.
Yeah.
And in doing so, had the ability to craft a perfect rock electric homunculus.
Yeah.
And set him loose on his own material.
Wicked Ian manipulated the growth of one Florian into being the exact little doll that he needed him to be.
Do you know how the electric guitarists came to be? They were jazz guitarists who were tortured in the underground. That's Saruman.
So yes, Florian started acoustic.
Yeah.
Got pulled into the whole Tullosphere.
And he's been working his whole life for this moment.
Yeah, right.
It sounds great.
This is his first recording on a Tull album. He did some touring prior to this. I believe we covered this a while ago. I believe after he left, he went into working his own studio, his own recording studio, which seems to be fairly common. I feel like we hear that fairly regularly of people being like, well, I don't want to be in a rock band anymore. Let's do a studio.
I think it's kind of the issue of like, I don't want to stop playing music, but I don't want to be on the road.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I think that's the big thing.
Yeah.
He sounds great on this track. He's bringing the power and expression that a rock guitarist needs, but he has the precision and the kind of training, the technique, and the consciousness of a jazz guitarist.
Yeah. Anytime I hear him in this track, even though he's playing like a really bluesy sound,
yes,
he's very, very bluesy.
Especially toward the end.
Yeah. There's a cleanliness to it. And is it partly Steven Wilson? You know, who knows? He was the producer on this. So it could be some effect of the post-production. But I do think that Florian does have that general feel and sound.
He's not so much muddy waters as more waters what you've been filtered to 1 nanogram of purity.
Pure Wasser.
Speaking of guitars, the first sound that we hear in this is the sound that takes us through the entire track, Ian's absolutely gorgeous acoustic picking. We are always fans of his acoustic work. This, to me, stands out as even exceptional among what we've heard him do before.
It's so good because there's a little more to it, I feel like. I feel like he's adding a little English to it as opposed to just like kind of a simple picking or strumming. There's a little more feeling behind it, kind of driving it.
Yes, and he's very much playing in the tradition of Roy Harper with those expressive structured runs and picking chords, but picking them in such a way that they give a sense of melody.
Yeah, good call. Good reference there.
He's adding in some little flourishes that are really fun that could totally be covered by somebody else, but you know, that when he's going like adding in that little triplet is lovely.
Yeah, it feels satisfyingly sporadic. You know, it feels like he's just filled with the spirit of this song. So he's going to put a little sauce over here, and he's going to butter up this note, and he's going to put a little taco trill on that side. But I'm sure it's all really like well calculated.
A taco trail?
Trill. Taco trill. Oh, man, don't be absurd. Not a taco trail.
A taco trill?
Yeah. Well, I said sauce and then butter, so I had to go. I had to up the...
So tacos, yeah. Oh, no, I get it.
Yeah, thank you.
Totally.
Say no more.
Yeah.
This makes so much sense.
Yeah. They're playing in the key of masa.
That's a corny joke. Oh,
Jesus.
F*** you.
We have the organ being delightfully played.
Yes. Hammond organ.
By John O'Hara.
Yeah.
And as we will learn in the half, it is not a replica of a Hammond organ being done on a synthesizer. It's the real thing.
Right. His new baby, apparently, it's the real thing specifically for this project. And he's giddy with glee for using this instrument.
Yeah. We'll talk about in what context, but Ian said it sounds like the real thing because it is the real thing.
And it's important to note that they were going for that sound specifically to pull from that specific instrument because...
That's what they used on Thick as a Brick 1.
They wanted the instruments from then. Yeah.
That didn't even occur to me. That's really great. It reminds me of the tendency that we're seeing today in filmmaking where people are realizing like, oh, green screening everything and using CGI kind of makes for an awful watching experience.
Yeah.
There's a return to practical sets like we've seen in Wicked or The Mandalorian. This is kind of like that, returning to like, let's just do it with the instruments that we want.
Yeah, I just watched Wolfman, the new Wolfman, and it's all practical makeup and it's really good.
It's all real wolves.
It's all real wolfmen.
It's real wolfmen. And the Wolfmen Union is not so easy to work with.
That's right. But it's worth it for a good finished product.
Yeah. As we build, we get Florian coming in, we get the drums and bass coming in.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to talk about the time signature.
Trips.
It is mostly in 3/4. You're absolutely right. But it is not exclusively in 3/4.
Where do we vary?
We tend to vary on the last line of each of our stanzas.
Oh, so just like, is it an incidental? What's that called? If you just, it's essentially an extra note, right?
Well, it is, but it's not one measure of it. It's several measures of, it's sort of like 3/4, 3/4, 3/4, 3/4, 3/4, 3/4, 4/4, 4/4, 4/4. Back to 3/4.
Okay.
So it switches the time signature up. And you were talking about that sense of feeling off balance or feeling kind of like unresolved with this song. I think that the time signature plays a big role in that.
Yeah.
3/4 can feel quite stable, but the way that Ian's playing it, it has that kind of, you feel like you're not quite there. And then it matches with the text as well. You know, thinking back on the child that he once was, all bread and butter, suddenly we're now in 4/4, remembering that more stable life.
Interesting. Yeah.
Thinking back to the child that he once was, all bread and butter and jam for his tea.
There may be even more stuff going on that's funky with this time signatures. There may be a measure of 5 in there somewhere. But mostly it's this interplay of 3/3, which feels very off kilter, and then restabilizing to the 4/4.
Yeah.
Just enough to kind of get you feeling good, and then it jacks you over to the 3/4.
The 3/4, it does have that instability, but it also feels like you're caught up in that wave. You're not in danger, but you're also not in control. You have to give up to the 3/3, and then maybe your toes touch the beach for the briefest of moments on that 4/4, and then you go back out to sea a little bit again.
Yeah. Thinking about a dark ride, it's, you know, the 4/4 gives you that fixed point for a second where you're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm facing this way? Oh my God, I thought I was facing,
right.
And then you're back in the darkness and you're all disoriented again.
Yeah, interesting. I like that.
It is such a successful use of that technique in this song that I want to put it in a textbook about ways to make people feel uncomfortable. Omen's Big Book of Discomfort, coming out in 2026.
Forward by Ian Anderson.
Forward by Ian Anderson. I've been making myself uncomfortable my whole life.
And I think it's even more remarkable that we have this sense of instability and being swept away, with the tempo being on the rather slow side.
Yeah, the tempo's fairly slow, but the subdivisions of Ian's picking are quite fast. And so it has that sense of, is it fast? Is it slow?
Right.
Once we get into the hinterlands of this track, we get some really fun proggy stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
We have the kind of standard Tull. Dun 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 dun. Ba 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 ba. Dun 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 dun. Daka 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 down.
Or punctuations, yeah.
Yeah, the stabs.
Yeah, the stabs.
Some small stabs.
Yeah. A crab fork. One of those corn cob holders. Are you poking me? What is that?
I've been stabbed in both ends and I've been covered in butter. What is it, my birthday? Oh, at 2:05, we have a riff that is a reference to something in Thick as a Brick 1.
Ooh.
Let me see if I can pull it up.
Let me hear that, Daddy.
Please, call me Father. Daddy is my daddy's name. Oh, that's the wrong song. It's a disguised tune.
It sounds vaguely familiar. I'll see if I can dig it up.
It's something that's been modified so it's a little less recognizable.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something that was in Thick as a Brick 1.
That snippet that you played right before that was the wrong song. That also sounded like a piece from the original Thick as a Brick as well.
I think we're going to keep finding lots of them. It's kind of like when you take a Robin Hood Lego set and you break it down to make your...
Harry Potter?
I was going to say Harry Potter, yeah, but then I didn't want to say Harry Potter.
Oh.
You're like, I love this Robin Hood playset, but I'm really in my Ivanhoe era.
And you have to make your own Ivanhoe Lego set because Lego will never make an Ivanhoe set.
They refuse after all the letters I've sent them. What this entire song leads into, one of the riffs from Thick as a Brick 1. When we transition from this song and make the jump over to old school song, that starts with one of the riffs from Thick as a Brick 1. Getting a little ahead of ourselves.
Let's not jump in with both feet.
At 2:40, we have Ian popping out with the flute in the most distinct time in this song. I think we've maybe had some little flute background noises, but he comes out with a lovely showing, switch back and forth between some of the instruments for a little while. And in general, we have a nice play. You know, every time we go back to that Ian picking, it feels shocking somehow. It's almost like the hard rock sound in this song almost feels like the comfortable spot.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And then you end up back with that picking and it just feels so stark and depressing, even though it's beautiful.
In a way, it almost feels like that starting acoustic from the original, from Thick as Brick 1, and then that acoustic, it's the exact same sound that we hear at the end of Thick as a Brick 1, but you're going through that massive 45 minutes of journey here.
Really don't mind if you sit this one out.
This feels like that on a much smaller scale.
And a much more bleak,
much more discomforting,
heartbreaking scale.
Yeah. I do really like that great breakdown.
Yes.
Shredding guitar, flute, piano, and quote unquote. What you were saying about that bluesy riff at the very, very end with Florian, I much prefer the little acousticy blim right before that. And honestly, it feels like that's the perfect way to end it. And then you get Florian, and then you get a little cymbal as well.
I see what you're saying, and I don't necessarily agree with it, but I could see the argument to say, like, you only really need one or the other. You don't need both to end this song.
Yeah.
I think it's a function of the fact that it's not only the end of the song, it's also the end of this section, and it's moving into another story, into another section.
Okay. Yeah, it's more final.
It's more transitional.
Okay.
That blues riff is the hallway between one funhouse and the next funhouse.
Gotcha. Okay.
Where you can throw away your trash.
There's a trash can. Yeah.
The trash can.
There might be a bathroom stop. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a little place where you can take a photo against a wall.
It's just a drywall wall, but you can do it. Yeah.
There's nothing special about it, but you could take a picture there.
Yeah, no one's stopping you.
No one will stop you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nick McGill.
Omen Thomas Sade here. We are halfway through.
And what should we talk about here halfway through?
So I think we ought to talk. Someone in the Discord, I apologize for not remembering who dropped it in, but someone dropped in a link to a YouTube video that was a part of the Thick as a Brick 2 kind of DVD release.
Yes.
Which is a behind the scenes kind of making of Thick as a Brick 2, kind of a quick little spot. And you can search literally making of Thick as a Brick 2. Ian Anderson - making of Thick as a Brick 2. I'm sure there are several options out there. There is at least one that I'm looking at. I'm not going to give credit to someone who does not own the product, but you can find it. It's out there.
Yeah, and let's have a look at it. Ah, Master Nick!
Oh my God, Mary!
I've brought in your reel-to-reel projector!
Thank you so much.
I'll crank it for you.
Thank you.
And I'll also play the film.
Oh, Mary.
I've had a good time in my vacation, and by vacation, I do mean I was sent up to a farm to kick my habits.
Yes, yeah, and you're still at the halfway house. It's nice to see you though, but the court has ordered you have to be clean for at least 6 months before you can reside on my property again. I hope you're acknowledging that.
The word clean has many definitions. Oh, it's me, parole officer. I'd better go.
All right, tell Kevin I say hi.
Harboring any crazy people?
Hi, Kevin. She just went out the back.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
You'll never catch me. I'm the gingerbread man. It's been quiet without her.
It really has. It really, really has.
Almost too quiet. Almost not quiet enough.
Almost is the key word there.
So this video is fantastic. Like you said, it's behind the scenes. My favorite part is that in part of the introduction, Ian says, I typically despise the presence of cameras in the recording process.
Yeah, the quote is, much as I hate the intrusion of cameras and non-musicians into the studio recording environment, just this once, I will allow it. I think he's allowing it because it's James who's behind the camera.
Yes. James Duncan is on the credits for having done a lot of the filming.
Yes.
And you know what? I get it. A rehearsal space or a recording space, it's already stressful enough, and you have to be vulnerable. You know that you might make mistakes.
Right.
And you don't want to have anything that's going to distract you or be excessive. And a camera is the worst thing.
Right.
Just thinking about theater, it's always very uncomfortable when they're like, okay, we're going to do some production shots today. Just rehearse like you normally do, and we'll take some video. It's very uncomfortable because you have suddenly this awareness. You're like, Yeah.
James being the camera operator means it's not some stranger.
Right.
It's not some rando. And they obviously have final say on what gets edited and presented.
And he's a musician.
And he's also a musician, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a real gem of a video. One of the things that I find so fascinating, we've speculated for literally years about how it is to work with Ian as an artistic director, as it were.
Right, yeah. As Jethro Tull, I guess,
We get to actually see a window in that. And what was really abundantly clear to me in some of these interactions is it is so clear in Ian's mind how this measure should be.
Yes. Yeah. It's really fascinating to watch.
And it's not a matter of, no, that was close enough. It's no, it's like this.
Yeah.
And it's not even a matter of, oh, I think it should be like this, or it will sound better like this, or I want you to play it this way. This is how it is.
Yeah, right. You're not playing it the right way. It's not, give me this sound. It's, this is the sound.
Tolkien, speaking of Tolkien, was like this, where the whole world already existed in his head. I remember there's some fabulous Tolkien quote where somebody would say, well, what about this part of Middle Earth, And he didn't say, oh, I have to write that or I have to make that up. He said, I have to go and find out a bit more about that. As if it was a complete, fully developed entity that he had access to. That's the feeling I get from Ian, that when he starts working on an album, at some point it's like, well, it's all there.
Yeah. I think at one point he says that about 18 months ago, I think he gives a little chunk of time from the start date of like when he was talking to the guy from Gentle Giant to when they got into the studio.
Right.
And that time was Ian creating this thing to then bring to these musicians.
Yes.
In whatever iteration it is that he brings.
And no matter how good the musician is, there's always going to be a gap between the Plato's Cave version of the music in Ian's head and him writing it down or him describing it to someone or him humming it or whatever.
Yeah.
And then that being transferred to the musician.
Right. So it's the telephone game. This is how you have to play it. It's just a 2-person telephone game. This is how you have to play it. You play it for me. No, that's not right. Play it this way. No, that's not right. Play it this way.
It's 2 tin cans with a string in between them.
Yeah, right. And eventually, as the work goes along, the string gets tighter and becomes more clear and gets you that end result.
Until it snaps and puts your eye out.
Yeah, and the communication is broken and someone goes home crying.
Someone goes home crying to get a new string.
Yes.
My favorite part is the section where Ian's trying to get several people. There's some rhythm that's based on an Indian drumming rhythm.
Yes. Yep.
I think it's David Goodyear.
It's David Goodyear and John O'Hara.
And maybe Scott Hammond?
Oh, yeah. He might be in the corner, too. Yeah.
And they're just all standing around a microphone, and Ian is going, all right, lads, it's digga-dick-da-ba-da-ba-dick-dick-da. And they go, digga-da-da-ba-da-ba-da. He's like, no. Digga-dick-da-da-ba-da-ba-ba. It's like, it looks like it's an hour. It's edited down, but you feel like it's like this whole afternoon of them just being like, digga-dick-da-da-dick-dick-da.
Yeah. Tuckety-tuckety-tum or something like that. Yeah.
Right. It's very funny.
Oh, yeah. You know what? It might be Scott because at one point he references it and says Scott picked it up because
he's a drummer, right?
The rhythm and the drummer, yeah. But I also want to know where the hell in this album we hear the guys going tuckety tuckety tum, tuckety tuckety tum.
I don't think they're voicing it. I don't think they're ever supposed to voice it. I think
they're all standing in front of mics.
I know, but we've heard a lot of times in Tull in general, but in this album especially, where you have 3 or 4 musicians who are playing in unison the same rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're learning music, that's a common way of doing it, where you have to get the rhythm into your head before you can translate it into an instrument.
Oh, interesting.
So I think it was, I'm going to teach you the rhythm by saying it back and forth. I don't know why they were on the mic. Just to preserve it. Posterity. We'll find out.
I'll keep an ear open for the tuckety-tuckety-tums.
Please keep an ear out for the tuckety-tuckety-tums. Leave an ear out for the tuckety-tuckety-tums who come in the night.
They'll clean them and shine them.
Oh, delicious ear. I love wax.
It's really cool to see Ian in his environment, like you said, as that director role of this is how I want it and this is how I want to hear it.
Yes.
But also we get to see snippets of Ian playing his little baby guitar. We get to see him playing on the flute and singing.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It's a unique window because working Ian, we almost only ever see either on stage or in an interview.
Right.
He's got this is the official Ian.
Right. There's Granddad Ian, the persona.
Yes, of course. Yeah. He's always in some sort of a persona. And I'm sure his recording, when he's at work recording, it's a different sort of a persona, but watching it felt like, oh, this is how he is behind the scenes. How cool.
Yeah. And I'm watching it with a grain of salt because I'm sure there is some bit of adjusting for the camera,
Of course, there's always going to be.
Fewer curses, probably.
They cut the part where he flipped over the Hammond organ and stormed out.
Right, lit it on fire, yeah. Oh, also really cool to see him interacting with Steven Wilson.
Yes! Oh, yes! And how specific it is. And there's sort of a negotiation between, look, it's going to sound this way one way or another. If you play it this way, it'll be less work on the editing side.
Mm-hmm.
the note has to fade at this speed. We can do that artificially, but I'd rather have it happen in the performance of it. So can you do that?
Yeah, I think it was Ian was talking to Florian or something.
I think it was
saying,
Florian, yes.
Yeah, like if you stop the strings, we won't have to put in a fade out.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a great video. Again, it's really unique. There's a lot of Tull content out there, but I would definitely suggest looking at that.
Yeah, it's a half an hour. It is well worth it. There's kind of that behind the scenes bit. And then the last like 10 minutes is an interview with each of the guys from the band. And what's really cool is Ian kind of gets into very briefly like how he met each of the guys and kind of what they mean to him and where they got pulled in and why they were included in this particular album.
Yeah.
Or in Tull in general.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. It is really, really cool Tulkiology. I wish we had more of these pieces, to be honest, in terms of older albums and older pieces of music. But yeah, it's great. It's highly recommended. Only a half an hour. Yeah. Honestly, I'd watch about 2 hours of this. I would watch a full-length Tull documentary. What is... Oh, did you hear that?
Paint thinner makes me feel alive! Oh, God. I have a feeling she's going to be there for more than 6 months.
Yeah. I feel like she kind of spiraled quickly on this one.
I have no addictions because I myself am an addiction.
I can't quit you, Marley.
Nick, hello.
Hi, Omen. How are ya?
Oh, I'm doing great because we get to talk about the lyrics to Adrift and Dumbfounded.
That we do. Let's see where Ian takes old Gerry, on this adventure.
Well, he takes him to the crossroads of New Street and Old Town.
Okay, I know exactly where he's talking about.
So actually, I'm really curious to know, is that a metaphorical location or is that a real location in London?
It 1000% sounds metaphorical, but I also would not be surprised if it is a physical point.
Porque no los dos. He stands at the crossroads of New Street and Old Town.
He stands at the crossroads of New Street and Old Town.
Those are definitely places in London. They're probably also places in almost every other major city in England.
Yeah, right.
Because they're such generic names. There could be an actual location that Ian is referencing, or it could be metaphorical, old and new. His old life is behind him, his new life is in front of him.
Right. And at that crossroads, there is that option to turn specific ways. You are given choices in terms of where you want to go on your journey.
Yes, but he's standing there.
Yes.
He's stuck at the crossroads.
Right. So he has yet to make that decision.
Crossroads are also, thinking all the way back to Songs from the Wood and the discussion of ley lines. That idea of crossing paths translated in American culture to this idea that you could go to the crossroads to meet the devil.
Yes. Yep.
A lot going on just in that little, first couple of lines.
Yeah.
Gerald something from Good Home on Sea.
Gerald something from Good Home on Sea.
Oh my God, I love that so much. He's unknown to the locals, except he's Gerald something.
He's that guy. Yeah. His surname doesn't matter.
And Good Home on Sea is kind of a play on one of the naming conventions in England where it's like something on Avon, Stratford on Avon.
Yeah, right. So this is giving us that generic location of, he's from somewhere over there, but he's from a good home.
He's from a good home, but look at him now.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah. Thinking back to the child that he once was, all bread and butter and jam for his tea.
Thinking back to the child that he once was, all bread and butter and jam for his tea.
That's where we enter that 4/4 and get that sense of stability. The topic of bread and butter runs through a lot of English literature, poetry, songwriting.
Does it?
Yeah, and I've never really understood what it means, but I think it's sort of like what we would say, oh, he's a corn-fed, red-blooded American.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. In the States, at least, saying something is your bread and butter, that's how you make your living. That's how you buy your bread and butter.
Right, but I don't think that's what this means.
It doesn't feel like it, no. It feels like living a life of maybe not necessarily opulence per se, but having the option of butter and jam as opposed to just like surviving on bread.
Yeah, I think that's maybe part of it. I think it's also there's an implication of wholesomeness, or this is the proper way that you do things.
Sure, right.
When you have tea, you have bread and butter and jam.
Sure. Yeah, there's that stricture, there's that tradition that when he was home, he followed those rules. Everything was laid out for him in that way. And now that he's not there, he is not living like that.
Exactly. It's all drawing a contrast. Wow, he had everything going for him. What happened? Whatever happened to Gerald Bostock?
Right.
Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
Men came and went in his moments of madness, muttered apologies late for a meeting.
Men came and went in his moments of madness, muttered apologies late for a meeting.
I think it's interpretable in several different ways. We have the through line in this story of him being on the DL homosexual.
Right, yeah.
So it could be his dalliances.
Mm-hmm.
And, it could be that the men or he were muttering apologies late to the hookup.
Yeah.
It could also be that he did hold down a job for a while, but these men were his dealers.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And he was showing up to work all messed up because he's addicted to smack.
Yeah, okay. I took the first half of that. Men came and went in his moments of madness. Could be dealers, but could also be male dalliances. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought about on that one. And that muttered apologies late for a meeting almost to me feels like he was never able to stay with someone. Either he couldn't do it, he had to make up excuses, or they couldn't do it. They didn't want to stay with him. They didn't want more than just a passing moment.
No matter how you interpret it, there's this sense of a lack of control. The moments of madness makes me think that whatever's going on, he can't help himself. He doesn't have control over that.
Right.
And that is leading to his inability to live a quote unquote normal life.
Yeah.
To be a productive member of society.
Right. He's not being supported by a society that expects him to participate in it, and therefore he's falling through the cracks.
And we get no real help with the next two lines. Too much intensity, too much feigned sadness, crestfallen hangdog, glances too fleeting.
Too much intensity, too much feigned sadness, crestfallen hangdog, glances too fleeting.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with my idea of the guys not wanting to stay with him because he's too intense, because he's too sad, because he's crestfallen hangdog, and his glances are too fleeting. He doesn't give them attention. They don't give him attention.
It's speaking to me of this intense lack of self-worth.
Yeah.
A lack of control, addicted to sex or drugs, and it wearing down on his sense of self.
Yeah, right. When you are barely viewed as human, your psyche is beaten, and what's your identity at that point?
Right.
It's the one or two traits that are driving you, sex or drugs or, something.
If we skip down a little bit, we have this wonderful line, broken society's selfish, uncaring, addled brains clutching at chemicals soothing.
Broken society's selfish, uncaring, addled brains clutching at chemicals soothing.
There's that old thing of like, oh, if you give a homeless person money, they're just going to go buy booze or dope with it. And I remember having a conversation with a homeless guy in London, and he was very upfront. He was like, I need cigarettes to survive out here. I need alcohol and cigarettes to survive out here because it is so uncomfortable to sleep on pavement. I have to numb my body.
Yeah.
And you can say, well, that you can say anything, but
do it now.
Blandersnatch. But I do think that is a pattern that we see in people who it is sometimes the cause of homelessness, but it is also a self-medication for the state of being homelessness.
Right. Yeah.
The next line chronologically, he was your golden boy. He's adrift and dumbfounded with nowhere to go, no appointments to keep.
He was your golden boy, he's adrift and dumbfounded with nowhere to go, no appointments to keep.
Again, a glimpse of where he came from, what he was in that previous life, and what he has become.
Yeah, the lost potential, the squandered opportunities.
Yeah, he's really hammering home this idea that he's not the same person. He's just homeless. Like, he's gone through some shit. He's having mental issues. He's having physical issues. He is not as acute as he was. He's got all sorts going on, which is super common to those people who are unhoused, unfortunately.
It never occurred to me until just this moment, but it almost, let's assume this wasn't intentional, but one could view this as the Aqualung origin story.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Aqualung is an example of this for sure.
Yeah, how did he end up that way? Well, he actually used to be the golden boy of What's It on Sea.
Yeah.
He had everything going for him.
And now he's adrift and dumbfounded.
Right.
Yeah.
He's our little man. He's adrift and dumbfounded, head on hard pillow, waiting for sleep.
He's our little man, he's adrift and dumbfounded. Head on hard pillow, waiting for sleep.
I think this is also an American phrase, but in England they say sleeping rough.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Did we say that?
Yeah.
I'd never heard that except until I heard it from an Englishman.
Huh. Yeah, I don't think it's terribly common, but I mean, I know the term, yeah.
Yeah.
Roughing it.
Roughing it.
Yeah.
Fluffing it.
Fluffing it.
Dropping it. Throwing it back.
Bop it. Twist it. Do you remember Bop It when we were kids?
I do.
Okay.
I bopped it.
You bopped it.
I've twisted it.
Crank it.
Bop it. Twist it. Pull it.
Broken society, selfish, uncaring, addled brains, clutching at chemical soothing, addiction of various kinds. Anything that makes you feel good.
Yeah. Not even feel good per se, but make you forget the bad.
Not feel so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Desperate measures, desperately tearing. Interesting double usage of desperate. At the last vestige of dignity, his for the losing.
Desperate measures, desperately tearing. The last vestige of dignity is for the losing.
As if it hadn't been hammered home already. It's hammered home very aggressively with this line that he is a shadow, he's a shell of his former self.
Yeah, and it's kind of the second half of the adage, desperate times call for desperate measures. So we've got desperate measures because he is in a desperate time. Because he is taking desperate measures, he is doing things desperately.
Yeah. Yeah, you get the sense that anything that he could possibly view as an asset, whether it's the clothes on his back or what he can do for somebody, however humiliating it is, he keeps discovering, oh, well, I can go lower.
Yeah, right. If that's what it takes for me to get a meal or get a bottle of booze to stay warm.
Right.
Yeah.
Fun stuff.
Sure is.
We wrap up with a little repeat. He was your golden boy. He's adrift and dumbfounded with nowhere to go, no appointments to keep. He's our little man. He's adrift and dumbfounded, head on a hard pillow, waiting for sleep. I don't know why the no appointments to keep sticks out to me, but it's like no one's waiting for him. No one's expecting him.
Yeah.
Society, his family, had such high expectations from him. And now no one expects anything of him and barely even remembers his name.
Yeah. Right. He's the guy, every city has like specific homeless people who are that specific person.
Fixtures of the community.
Yeah. That's the one that has the pit bull. I remember back when I was on Reddit, on the Ithaca Reddit, at one point they were having a discussion about the homeless people and they were talking about like, oh, well, there's this guy. I haven't seen this guy in a long time. And everybody chimed in like, oh yeah, what happened to him? Like they knew him. They knew of this person.
Yeah. When Katie and I lived in Brooklyn, there was a guy who would pretty regularly walk up and down our street yelling about vampires. And part of it, there was that little part of me that was like, should we maybe be listening to him? Like,
does he know something?
Does he know something that we don't? And how would we? I don't know. But yeah, it's sort of, if Aqualung was the fantastical, we're going to take something very banal and discarded and re-enchant it for the viewer. This is like peeling away to show the real human condition.
Gotcha, yeah.
Of the internal experience of someone in that position.
Right, yeah. Aqualung is kind of just the physical experience, but this is the internal experience.
It's what we see wondering about the person, and this is what the person is experiencing in their experience. The experience.
Experience. And next week, we are pretty darn close to halfway. We are starting Gerald the Military Man.
Yes, we are.
That is another two-parter. The first portion of Gerald the Military Man is track 6, Old School Song.
Old School Song.
No, Old School Song.
Oh.
Yeah, not Old
School Song.
No, Old School Song.
Drop it like it's hot.
Until next week, I am your golden boy. I am Nick McGill.
I'm the butter for your bread, Omen Thomas Sade.
We are addled brains clutching at nothing, the feckless momes.
And this is the last vestige of our dignity. Talk Tull to me. Just another block, and I'll be there. Oh! Huh? Oh! Must be close to midnight. After scaling the gates of the sanitarium, me dress is torn. But no man shall stop me from my goal. New Street, Old Town. I'm at the crossroads.
Who are you who has come to sell your soul, to bargain with old Scratch?
Do I have the pleasure of meeting Beelzebub?
Yes, I was being poetic, but yes, it's me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Mary from Ponstifferon Lake.
Mary.
Yeah, why?
What do you come seeking?
Oh, I've dreamed of this day for many a sleepless, hot night.
Okay, this is getting a little personal, but yes. What have you dreamt of? What have you not dreamt of, Mary?
Oh, Mr. Satan, I'd like to make you a deal you'll be hard-pressed to refuse.
I'm listening.
I'd like to give you my Christian soul, and all I ask for in exchange is to give you something else.
Oh, you're giving me your soul to give me something?
I want to offload a good.
Oh.
It's no good to me.
Okay, I'm interested. This has never happened before. This is intriguing.
You like collecting unique things is what I read about you.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, so tell me, Mary, what is it you wish to exchange?
Oh, Mr. Satan, I offer up to you, as no charge, my own blessed virginity.
Oh.
Here it is.
Oh, my, there is nothing under that dress at all. Wow.
I didn't know that Satan could turn green. Must be from your state of arousal.
It's something. Wow.
Breathe it in.
This is... This has never happened at the crossroads before. Normally it's like a bunch of naked ladies dancing around a campfire, but...
Oh, I can dance. Look at me. Look at me shake it for you.
Oh, so much is shaking. So much.
You'll put this soul on a golden pedestal once you've taken my virginity. My sweet succulent maidenhead.
Just so you know, whenever I copulate it, you will come with child, and then it's gonna be like a Sophie's Choice thing. You're gonna have to it's gonna be the Omen. You're gonna have a Damien, the devil child. Are you good with that?
Anything to keep me company, yeah. That'd be great.
Okay.
Hey? Oh, Mr. Satan.
Yeah, what is it?
I hope you've been taking your ginseng and ginkgo biloba because I've got an insatiable appetite for demon wang.
Well, speaking of demon wang, it's got barbs and hooks and multiple...
Don't threaten me with a good time. Let's see them pearlies. Drop your trousers down to your hooves, Mr. Satan. Oh, yeah. That's...
Well, I mean, I guess first we'd have to sign a contract. That's. I mean, I don't have a.
I brought my own paperwork. Just sign here.
Oh.
Sign the picture I have for you from my files. I always make them sign.
Wow. I'm not. Hang on a second. I gotta make a phone call. Excuse me.
I'll slip into something less comfortable.
Hello, Hell's Resource Desk.
Hi, Bob. Hey, it's the boss. It's.
Oh, hey, Satan. Hey, how's your field visit going?
Yeah, it's a little unexpected.
Oh, okay.
I've got someone who brought their own paperwork.
Oh, wow.
And they're gonna give me their soul.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, but I have to take their virginity.
Oh, wow, that is unusual. It's not unprecedented, though. If I look back at the files we have here in 1366, we had somebody who wanted to become the greatest whore in the world.
Yeah, Hecuba. Yeah, she was smoking.
Hecuba, yeah. Right. We had Fauntleroy, Lord of the Pimberlakes, who just couldn't get any.
Yeah. No, he was a good time. He was really soft and supple.
But nothing recently. Let me look up in the files. What did you say their name was?
Mary.
Let me type that in here.
Like a lakes.
Oh, your God, Satan.
Yeah.
Have you signed anything yet? I'm just...
Not yet, no, not
Human
yet.
Resources is blowing up the lines over here. I would advise you to get out of there as soon as possible. Just wait till the lawyers arrive before you do anything. If you can't get out.
Right. Do I still have that shit to call in a favor from upstairs? Do I still have that?
It's gonna be your last one, but yeah.
Oh God, I think it's worth it.
Okay. Oh, but the phones are blowing up here. There's something even less holy than what we do creeping in through the phone lines.
Oh God.
I'm on the other line here on my cellular phone.
How did that happen?
I tapped into the infernal network.
Bob, hang up, Bob, hang up.
Oh, Mr. Satan, I've got you in me eye trap now.
Oh.
Hello, I want to whisper sweet nothings in your ear to make you relaxed. Oh, I know what gets you going. Talk Tull to me as a proud member of the Feckless Gnomes Audio Network.
Paging Mr. Erection?